All right. Meow. On a completely unrelated note, has anybody seen how terrible they did my boy DJ on the cover of this Golf Digest article? Yo, this photo is absolutely terrible. This looks worse than the time when Shaq did that commercial for McDonald's. Y'all know which one I'm talking about. In today's video, I am going to be talking about the Decade app and how it has helped me decrease my scores and help me to understand how to score better on the golf course. Now, if you are a competitive golfer and you do not know what the Decade app is, then you need to listen up. This is going to be a good review and it's going to be a long one, so make sure you stay tuned for the entire video because I'm going to give my personal experiences of what I've been doing with this app and what I've been doing with this instruction over the last 6 months. Well, not the last 6 months, but for an entire 6-month period. So Decade is a math-based strategy system that teaches you how to apply logical, mathematical decisions to your scoring strategy and completely remove emotion from any decision making while you're out on the golf course. And if you're like me and you picked up golf and you've really only learned from what you see on TV and from people that you play with, the honest reality is most of us don't know how to play golf in the way that's going to get us the lowest score possible. But now that we have the data, the science, and the analytics, we've learned that most of the golf folklore of hitting fairways and swinging easy and laying up to whatever distance that keeps you in play aren't statistically the best ways to lower your scores. I'm going to talk about the Decade system that took me from a scoring average of 85 to almost 81 in just a matter of 4 months. Let's do it right meow. Thank you very much for tuning in to my YouTube channel. My name is Kenny. Some of you may know me as Kennie Kat. I am a competitive golfer. My goal is to help you improve your golf faster by learning from some of my successes and also some of my failures. If you want to know what new training aids, what new training programs, and what stuff that I'm working on with my golf coach that could possibly help you improve your golf faster, then hit that subscribe button below. I release free content every single week. Decade is a mnemonic where every single letter goes into a different decision process that has to occur before you select a target for your golf shot. Mnemonic, that's one of them $5 words you can take to the bank. $10,000! D stands for distance. Obviously you got to know the distance of your shot. E stands for expectation, knowing what the likelihood it is to hole out from the distance that you're at. C is for correct target. A is for analyze, D is for discipline, and then E is for execute. Now, I'm not going to go into every single one of these letters because this isn't my software and the person that sells this makes a living off of it, but I'm going to give you a brief overview. And I know that may seem like a lot, but it really comes down to a few basic things. You got to know the distance that you want to hit your ball to. You have to understand the reality from the distance that you're hitting from. A 100-yard wedge shot should have a different expectation or different mental expectation in your mind than a 200-yard approach shot. And then you have to analyze, the course conditions and the information that you have around you, such as wind and, your slope and all that other good jazz. And then have the discipline to commit to a target that you know is going to work best for your shot dispersion and then execute on it. You purchase a monthly subscription to an online database of videos and tutorials and a platform where you can actually store some of your stats. And each month, Scott Fawcett, the creator of Decade, walks you through a different letter and a different scoring strategy to help you understand some of these concepts. Over 6 months, you're introduced to a new concept in the Decade mnemonic, and Scott Fawcett walks you through a different part of the letter and explains the thought process and the mathematical scoring strategy that goes behind that different lesson for whatever the month is. Each month comes with a different stat that you're going to track and focus when you're out there on the golf course and working to improve your scores. Your dashboard also shows your current averages and what you need to do in order to decrease your scoring average. Scott also provides some very helpful practice ideas around putting and hitting shots on the range, and just his general experience from his years of playing competitive golf as a professional on the PGA Tour. I think he was playing on the Hooters Tour, which used to be the Corn Ferry Tour, or whatever the case may be, and also some of his experience caddying for some of the best collegiate athletes that we now see on the PGA Tour, like Will Zalatoris. Well, Scott Fawcett is the face of Decade, and I don't want to go into his whole backstory because you can find lots of information about him. He is on Twitter, and I am going to go ahead and put his Twitter handle somewhere in one of these. I'll pop it on the page here. I'll put it in the description below. But basically, Scott is a former professional player that played on the PGA Tour and also, I think, what was at the time the Korn Ferry Tour. And he talks about how he really didn't understand these mathematical concepts and how to apply a proper strategy to his game. So that basically forced him to create this because he was helping, D1 athletes and collegiate players understand some of the mistakes that he made as a professional player. So unlike my normal reviews, because we don't have a physical product to actually review, what I'm gonna do is actually jump into a couple of the core concepts from the Decade system that I don't think Scott would mind me sharing because they're out there on the internet for free to watch. But here are a couple of core concepts that the Decade system really helps you to understand, and a lot of this goes into the entire just ideology of how do you actually play and score better at golf. It's easier to avoid bogeys than it is to make birdies. The biggest contributor to lowering your scoring average is bogey avoidance. So learning what causes most people to make bogeys and focusing on skills to improve that specific area is obviously likely to reduce your scoring average. Scott focuses on the Tiger 5, which are 5 things that Tiger focused on if he knew he was gonna have to shoot a good round. And the Tiger 5 is very simple. No 3-putts, no bogeys on par 5s, no 6s on 5s, no bogeys from 150 yards and in, no doubles, and then no blown easy saves, which Scott simplifies as no 2 chips. Very simple concept to understand. This Tiger fella certainly seems like he knew a thing or two about how to shoot some low scores. The second core concept that he gets across is when it comes to hitting golf shots, you have a shotgun, not a sniper rifle. Every single club in your bag has a dispersion pattern, even a putter. You don't know if you hit that 10-foot putt, if that putt's gonna roll 11 feet or if that putt's gonna roll 9 feet 10 inches. You know that it's gonna be somewhere within that distance, but even short to long, that's a dispersion pattern. Before you hit that 8-iron into a green, you don't know if that 8-iron is gonna be 5 yards left of your target or 15 yards right of your target. But you can pretty much be assured, if you're a good player, that it's gonna be somewhere in a general dispersion area. The better you are, the tighter your shotgun pattern will be, but you still have a shotgun pattern. Maybe you have buckshot versus birdshot, which I think sprays further. I don't know, I'm not a gun person. Somebody correct me in the comments. Does birdshot actually fly out further than buckshot? I would hope so. If you're trying to hit a bird, it's a bigger area or target. Another core concept to understand is shotgun patterns are huge. No. Like really huge. Even for the best players in the world, these patterns are massive from some distances that you wouldn't even expect. But the beauty of patterns is they tend to repeat themselves. So how big exactly is a shot pattern from like an average distance of like 150 yards? I'm glad you asked that question. I know you didn't ask it, I asked that question, so I'm gonna go ahead and tell you. Do your best players on the face of the planet, possibly 2 of the best players that have ever played golf, were able to get to that target? You really do not have as much control over your ball as you think you do, and that's okay. As long as you understand that you have a massive shot pattern, you can become more comfortable with figuring out ways to center that shot pattern over your targets that gives you the best possible chance of shooting the lowest score. Here are some of the biggest things that I've taken away from Decade. Aim, alignment, and target. Here is my driver shot pattern. It's roughly 65 yards wide, and my natural shot shape with the driver is a fade, so that means my ball starts left and moves back right, and I'm a right-handed golfer. If I put down an alignment stick and stood perfectly parallel to that alignment stick and hit 25 decent drives, here is where those balls might end up. The ones to the left of my target line are shots that I happen to pull, and the ones to the right of my target line are shots that are just varying degrees of smaller to larger fades. Now, before hitting any of these 25 shots, I don't know exactly which of these balls is coming out of the barrel of my shotgun pattern, but I am reasonably confident that it's going to be somewhere in this dispersion area. How and why you align your body and club face is really not important, and I think that's where some people get confused. Your ball setup and your alignment is something for you to work on the range by yourself or with a qualified instructor. What is important is that you understand where the center of the majority of your shots will land. Decade defines your target as the geometric center of your shot pattern, which would be here. If I repeated this test 100 times on 100 different days, 50% of my balls should ideally fall left of this target, 50% of my balls should ideally fall right of this target, no matter how many times I repeat this test. So if we bring a fairway into this equation from my home course, if I tee it up in the center of the tee box and I align myself perpendicular to the center of the tee box, perfectly square to the tee box, to that center line, here is where most of my shots are likely to end up on this hole. But because I know my patterns and I know exactly how large my dispersion patterns are, I can confidently pick a line to aim that removes doubt and uncertainty while I'm on this tee box. In the case of this hole, the most desirable outcome is to have as many of my balls finish on the left side of the fairway and to the left of the fairway in the left rough without going over into the cart path as possible, which gives me the opportunity to attack the green in two. Now, knowing this and knowing my patterns, in order for me, again, this is just exclusive to me because this is the way that I work my patterns into it, all I have to do is stand on this tee box, aim directly over this tree, and just send it, which is exactly what I do every single time at this golf course. Sometimes my balls are going to land perfectly in the left side of the fairway and I'm going to have a clear, clean shot to the green in two. Sometimes I'm going to occasionally hit balls that are going to fade a little too far right. I'm not going to have as good as an approach as possible to the green and I've got to lay up. But I know overwhelmingly that there is more than enough space in this area as long as I hit a solid drive that my ball is going to be okay and in play roughly 99.9% of the time. Just having that understanding and being able to know that going into a competition gives me so much relief and confidence when I'm standing on a tee box with a drive and I know that I have to hit a quality shot in order to stay in play or to, gain strokes in the competition. Knowing that I have enough area to just hit a pretty decent drive and it's going to work out okay removes doubt from my mind and takes a lot of pressure off of me. All I gotta do is focus on staying in rhythm and staying in tempo, hit the center of the face as best as I possibly can and just send it, and then let what will ever happen, happen. If it ends up in the best part of my dispersion pattern, great. If it ends up in the worst part of my dispersion pattern, also great. I can't control either of those outcomes, but knowing that my ball is still gonna be in play is one of the best things that Decade has helped me to understand. And then the final thing is, discipline is a skill that requires practice, and it requires a lot of practice. If I were to take most average weekend golfers and put them 100 yards from the green on an approach with a pin that's maybe tucked a little bit to the right, I guarantee most of them would be thinking with a wedge in their hand, they're gonna fire right at this pin and they're gonna make birdie. I know that because I've been there, but here's the reality. A low single-digit handicap player is roughly 30 to 40 feet from the pin on average at 100 yards. That's just barely enough room to fit that ball on an average size green if you aim for the dead center from 100 yards. But it doesn't emotionally feel that way all the time when you're in the situation. It takes a lot of practice to quiet that voice in the back of your head that says, come on, you've been striping your wedges all day. If you fire right at this pin, you're gonna have a great look at birdie. But the averages and the reality of it says that if most people fire at that pin, you're probably just as likely to stuff it as you are to miss the green entirely from 100 yards. And that is exactly how weekend amateurs end up in a position that was gonna basically give them a par to scrambling to save a 5. Happens all the time. I'm 100% guilty of doing it. It's a skill to exercise discipline, and it takes a lot of trial and error to learn to ignore those emotions and stick to your concrete scoring strategy that you know is going to get you the best outcomes in the long run. With that being said, there are some areas for improvement, and let's talk about a few things that I think Scott could improve, and also some areas where I've seen some genuine criticisms from people, right? So the first one is, I don't strike the ball as well as a pro or a better player, so having a strategy is useless. I totally understand this critique, right? This is a person that literally cannot make solid contact with the ball, and they're like, why would I have a strategy if my ball could go any direction? Yes, you have to be a solid ball striker to have a consistent, repeatable flight if you need to maximize a strategy. But just because you suck at ball striking today does not mean you shouldn't spend time learning the core fundamentals of what will help you score lower. Because oftentimes, hitting poor shots and learning what is the best reality or the best outcome to recover from those poor shots is what helps you improve your understanding of scoring. Being in bad positions and learning the smart way of getting out of them and exercising that discipline is what will continue to help you down the road. What is it? Failure breeds progress. So I understand that concept of someone who's literally you can't make proper ball contact. I totally get it. Work with a coach, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't spend some proper time into at least understanding fundamental scoring principles. My second critique is Scott's point of view comes from that of a former professional that works with elite level golfers, not your weekend amateur. And this really isn't a criticism, but more so an observation. Scott occasionally suggests core concepts that are really only applicable to skilled ball strikers. And that makes sense. He originally made this app for elite level college players that were competing at the highest level and potentially looking to go pro. But the Decade Foundations app is directed towards your 80s, possibly 90s player. For example, he talks about focusing only on distance control or focusing mostly on distance control with putting because it's likely not your stroke that needs work. For most skilled golfers, I would 100% agree, but I've definitely played with some decent mid-handicap and single-digit players in tournaments that couldn't hit a 4-foot putt straight. And yes, I am aware I'm using anecdotal ideas from my limited experience playing in tournaments with competitors, but I'm sure Scott would agree because he said it as many times before. He is not a golf instructor, he is a golf strategist and he teaches golf strategy. It's still up to you to go to your coach and make sure that you verify that you are using the proper technique in order to get the best results out of your game. I'll leave it there. Last year, my scoring average dropped to almost 81. It was like 82 and some change from 85 or 86 as a result of using the Decade system religiously for about 3 months. And of course, in classic human error, I became so comfortable with the Decade system and so, arrogant that I understood the process and didn't have to put in the work that I stopped using it religiously. And now my scoring average just shot all the way back up to 88, which that's a whole different video for a whole other time that we'll talk about later. The point is, the Decade system helped me to reduce strokes and understand how to score better without actually having to physically get better at the game of golf or ball striking or golf swing, whatever you want to call it. And if you're anything like myself and you're a decent athlete and you have some good ball striking skills, but you don't really have a lot of golf IQ, I've only started playing in the last 3 years, the Decade system is definitely, the foundations is definitely for you. I don't know Scott, he's not paying me for this review. I paid for his product with my own hard-earned cash. I've actually never spoken to him. I probably should send him an email and like, hey, I did a review on your product, let me know what you think. But it really did help me decrease my scoring average by just increasing my golf IQ. And if you're someone that is looking to play competitively and you're genuinely looking to improve your game, you got to start understanding what it's going to take to score lower. And thus far, this is the best in-depth system that kind of cuts through all of the folklore of you got to have 5 up and downs and you got all this just this nuanced stuff and really cuts through to this is how good you can be as a player with a shot from this distance. You need to be aiming here because your dispersion pattern is so massive. You're probably not going to hit the green more often than not. It's just very cut and dry, and I like the fact that the system that Scott designed doesn't really romanticize a lot of the decisions that you're making. You just have to go out there and put in the work and exercise the discipline. If any of you down that lens are interested about the Decade system, obviously Scott's got a lot of content out there, but if you want to hear my personal experience as someone that shoots in the 80s and is a single-digit handicap golfer, leave me some comments below. I'll do my best to answer those in the easiest way that I can without giving away all the information that obviously he charges for. That's really all I got for you. As always, thank you very much for watching my YouTube channel. Deuces, people. Let's keep it moving.